Hi, hi everybody. This is Dr. Sridhar Vennamaneni at Prathima Hospitals, Kukatpally. Today I just want to educate you on things that we normally assume are healthy, that we eat and drink. So the topic is going to be think before you drink and eat, or think before you eat and drink. I'll start with the drinks first because this is very common. All of us pretty much, we go to a restaurant, drink juices, drink alcohol, or if you all go to a friend's house or you go to a party, there's always all kinds of drinks that are being served. So you need to know what you're drinking and how much carbohydrates, how healthy or unhealthy it is. So this topic will be just about trying to educate you so that you make the right choices when you consume any kind of drink. So I'll start with the basics. The things that we are concerned as physicians is we don't want you to indulge in too much carbohydrates. What are carbohydrates? Carbohydrates are complex sugar molecules that are present in everything that we eat or drink. So our foods, starting with even vegetables, have some carbs, but most of the fruits, juices, and then our sports drinks, our sodas, alcohol, all this has a lot of carbohydrates. And these carbohydrates in turn will turn into sugar, which in turn turns into fat if you don't exercise. So I'll start with the basic things that we normally drink. I'll start with a Coke, like a Thumbs Up or Coke that we all drink, and also Sprite. I'll show you some pictures of what we need to look at. If we were to start with a can of Thumbs Up, let's say it's a 200 ml can, a small can. We're looking at, if you look at the number of carbs, we always have to look at when we're drinking anything, especially if it's bottled, you always have to look at what is the amount of carbohydrates. And you always want to aim for, you have to look at how much am I drinking and how much carbohydrates does it have. So, because a lot of times these big companies will not tell you how much calories or carbs are in the whole bottle. They'll only say per 100 ml, they'll mention the amount of carbohydrates. So you should always look at how much, you have to look at how much carbs are in that 100 ml. But if you're consuming a 300 ml can of Coke or Sprite, you have to multiply 3 times that carbs. So for example, if you look at a Coke, can of Coke that we all drink, most of the a can of Coke and Sprite has about 36 grams of carbs. So that's equivalent to about 9 teaspoons of sugar. So 9 teaspoons of sugar pretty much added in that one can, and that's a lot of carbohydrate, and all that turns into sugar. So normally for a typical human being, we recommend maximum about 125 to 150 grams of carbs. So if you're having one can of Coke or Sprite, you're pretty much getting almost 36 grams of carbs. It's almost like 1/4 of your calories from carbohydrates. You already consume them. So you need to look at what you're consuming. The same thing if I go to this is the next slide is carbohydrates in a 100 ml of Maaza. All of us love Maaza, and I'm sure kids love it, adults love it. And 100 ml of Maaza has about 15 grams of carbs. That's equivalent to about 15.8, so almost 16. So 100 ml, which is like really half a cup, has close to, or half a glass I should say. One glass is about 240 ml. So half a glass has 16 grams of carbs, which equals to 4 teaspoons of sugar. So the way you calculate is 1 teaspoon of sugar equals 4 grams of carbs. So if there are 16 grams of carbs in half a glass of Maaza, so that's like 4 teaspoons of sugar in half a glass. So most of you drink 1 glass. That's like 8 teaspoons of sugar in that 1 glass of Maaza. And all that sugar is extra sugar that your body doesn't need, because you're already eating a healthy meal, you're eating some fruits. So it's always better to eat a fruit than drink a juice. So my advice is, before you drink or eat, before you drink any soda or drink any juice, always prefer water, flavored water, or have some fruits. Have an apple, have a small banana, have a guava, papaya, so orange, whatever. So fruits are better than juices any day. The next slide, next thing I want to look at is This is a picture of again Sprite. Like I said, Sprite has tons of, again, 100 ml has 12 grams of carbs. If you're drinking 300 ml, one can, that's like almost 36 grams. And I said that's equivalent to 9 teaspoons of sugar. So a lot of sugar added. And typically, I'm sure that if you were to have a cup of tea or coffee, you wouldn't add 9 teaspoons of sugar in there, or even 4 teaspoons for that matter. So sugar is added in everything, and that's what's carbohydrates. When they say carbohydrates, it means it's sugar molecules. That's what it is. Now, typically sports drinks like your Gatorade has much lower sugar. So if you were sick with diarrhea, if you're vomiting, if you have high fever, drinking a glass of Gatorade is fine. It has about, for 100 ml of Gatorade, you have about 6 grams, which is of 6 grams is like 1.5 teaspoons of sugar in a half a glass. So, which is much better than drinking Mazda or any other sports drinks. Orange juice, which a lot of people drink, has about, especially the ready-made, what I mean to say is fresh juices are fine. I just want to clarify. If you were to drink a fresh, homemade juice from a fresh fruit, the amount of sugar added is 0, so you're eating fresh stuff, it's fine. But if you were to buy anything store-bought, where you have a already pre-packed, can or a bottle, that's where you have a lot of sugar added. Now, for example, if you look at orange juice, which you buy from a store-bought orange juice, which is already pre-packed, has 26 grams of sugar per cup. That's like 26 grams of carbs, which is equivalent to about almost 6.5 teaspoons of sugar. So instead, make a fresh juice, have a fresh juice. That's what I'm trying to explain to you. Now, a lot of people I know go to Starbucks and or coffee shops and have a lot of creamy coffee drinks, the ones with a lot of cream and latte. Those have tons of sugar added. Like, for example, one of those, again, like a glass of that coffee drink has about 32 grams of sugar. That's of carbs. It's like equivalent to 8 teaspoons of sugar. So 32 grams divided by 4 equals 8 teaspoons of sugar in that one, cup, one glass or cup of whatever, big coffee drink that you're served in Starbucks or any other coffee shop. Now, if you look at the last thing I want to mention is alcohol. Alcohol also has a lot of calories and carbs. So if you were to have a light beer, 350 ml, like a half a bottle, like a big bottle, is about 650 ml. I'm talking about a small bottle. A 350 ml light beer has about 103 calories. If you were to have a strong beer, has 170 to 350 calories. So there's a lot of calories, and it's all carbohydrates. So if you were to divide that by 4, you're going to get the amount of carbohydrates. So let's say a light beer, a small light beer has 25 grams of carbs, so which equals to about 6 teaspoons of sugar. So if you were to have a stronger beer, you'll be getting 12 or more teaspoons of sugar. So the same thing with whiskey. If you were to have scotch or whiskey, you're looking at close to 120 calories, which again equals to around 6 to 7 teaspoons of sugar. Anything, again, rum, vodka, all those are pretty much in the same league. You're going to have close to at least 6 to 7 equivalent teaspoons of sugar, which is all carbohydrates. So there's a lot of carbs in all of this, and I just want to educate you on that. So my advice to you is, if you were hungry, or if you were thirsty, the best thing is go for plain water. If you don't like plain water, you can always flavor the water. Add some slices of orange. Just slice some orange, just simple orange slices. You can throw in some slice of orange. You can throw in some cucumber slices. You can throw in some mint. All that gives you a nice flavor to the water, and you can either put this in the fridge, or if you don't like cold water, you can just put this outside, and you're going to get the nice flavored water without adding any extra calories and extra sugar added in there. So now I'll go ahead and take questions from you all. Questions? foods ఏమని చెప్పాలన్నా fatty foods గురించి fatty foods గురించి చెప్పాలన్నా I'll also, because the topic says think before you eat, I'm also going to quickly talk to you about fatty foods that we need to look at, especially most of us when we go to a restaurant, or if you're eating outside in a fast food place, you're ordering all kinds of sandwiches, burgers, pizza, or at home you're cooking with fatty foods, oils and stuff. You need to know what you're eating. So I'm going to show you some slides on what are saturated fats which you need to avoid. Remember, anything that's in a solid form, like your butter, your cheese, your cream, ice cream, all these are loaded with a lot of fat, saturated fat, that clogs your arteries, can lead to heart attack and strokes. So your goal is to avoid them. So instead, and also there's some oils that are dangerous, like your coconut oil, palm oil. These are loaded with a lot of bad fat. Bad fat is saturated fat. You want to avoid that. Instead, you're going to go with unsaturated, which is fat that is good for you, but in a moderation. You don't want to overdo it, but it's still good for you. The good fats are mostly in your nuts, like your almonds, walnuts, peanuts. So you want to moderate, like you want to have maybe 10 to 12 almonds or walnuts a day. Those are fine. And cooking oil, instead of using butter or using coconut oil or palm oil, you would switch to either sunflower oil, canola oil, safflower, or olive oil, extra virgin olive oil. All these have good fats which are good for your heart, good for your brain, good for your skin, good for overall for different functions in the body. So you want to go with mostly unsaturated fat and stay away from saturated fat. I'm going to show you a slide. This is a picture of bad fats, and you can see you have all the red meats have a lot of saturated fat. So even your chicken with skin has a lot of saturated fat. Anything that's fried, like your fries, your chips, have a lot of saturated fat. You want to avoid that. And I can say, like I said, anything that's in a solid form, like your butter, cream, you can see mayonnaise, ice cream, all these have a lot of saturated fat, and you want to stay away from those. You want to mostly go with, if you want to have any kind of cooking oil, the best, like I said, is sunflower oil, safflower, canola, and extra virgin olive oil. These are you can also use, I forgot to mention, rice bran oil is fine. You can use that. You can also use avocado oil if you want to use that. But you want to mostly stay away from two oils, palm oil and coconut oil, and then stay away from butter, cheese, mayonnaise, cream, ice cream. All these are loaded with a lot of sugar, a lot of fat that you don't need. Now I'm going to go ahead with take your questions. Thank you. So the first question is about what happens if you consume too much soft drinks. What happens, like I said, is each of these your soft drinks, like your Coke, Sprite, has a lot of carbohydrates, which are sugars added in them, and without your knowledge, you're going to be gaining weight, and all that sugar turns into fat in your body, especially if you don't exercise. Then all that fat in turn can lead to elevated cholesterol, elevated sugars, can lead to diabetes, and long-term studies do show that all these extra added calories are not good for you. They cause more inflammation in your body, which in turn can lead to more, not only heart disease, but cancers, risk of dementia. All these are things, risk of stroke, risk of autoimmune problems like lupus, rheumatoid arthritis. All these risk goes up significantly when you drink too much soft drinks. So you need to be aware of that. The next question is about somebody who's been drinking Coke for many years, and he's 40 years old, and he wants to know how he can control this, and are there any complications. See, there are new studies that do show that having these artificial drinks like Coke, especially Coke and Sprite, you're having a lot of chemicals like artificial coloring agents and preservatives added in there, and we don't know the long-term side effects or benefits. So, but clearly we know that it's not good for your, in terms of cancer risk, heart disease risk. The risk is high. So, what do we do now? At this point, it's easy to just switch. If you're thirsty, if you want to drink something, switch to at home. What I would do is At night, I would take a water bottle, put it in your fridge, and in the morning, add some, slice of lemon, add some cucumber, just a slice, a few slices, 4 or 5 slices of watermelon, lemon, or and cucumber. You can throw in some mint, and that usually gives you a nice flavor. And this way, it's flavored water, and you won't feel, if you're thirsty, you can keep drinking that as much as you want. You can drink 3 to 4 big bottles of 4 liters, 3 to 4 liters of this flavored water. That's the best way to avoid drinking all these soft drinks. The next question is about somebody who's been drinking a strong beer once a week. Is that good or bad? The answer is, if you're drinking once a week, it's fine. I don't see any problem. It's only for somebody who drinks on a regular basis. If you're having like 2 or 3 strong beers, then that's a lot of calories, a lot of carbohydrates. All that extra sugar can increase the amount of fat in your body, increase the amount of fat in your liver, and which in turn can lead to long-term, liver problems and stuff. So 1 to 2 drinks occasionally, there's no problem. Even if you have strong drinks, it's fine. The next question is about eating heavy food after 10 at night, whether that causes digestive issues. The answer is yes. Because once, typically what we recommend our patients is to try to eat before 8 o'clock, as much as possible. The earlier the better, 7 to 8. Because what happens is, once you eat a heavy food or even just regular meal, the amount of acid in your stomach starts going up. And if you were to eat at very late and you sleep, within the next 1 to 2 hours, all that acid is coming up, and it causes irritation in your stomach, irritation in your throat, can cause ulcers, can cause irritation like laryngitis. So you can develop coughing from severe acid reflux because of all the acid coming up when you lie down. So what we recommend is try to eat early as much as possible, before 8. Too much late dinners or alcohol, all this can lead to problems. But also, if you're eating late or drinking late, all that extra sugar is turning into fat. You haven't had time to burn some of that calories. So as much as possible, before 8 is when you want to drink or eat. The next question about drinking more cups of coffee in summer, is it good for health? I've done one talk on this. What we know is that if you have 3 to 4 cups a day of coffee, it's fine. Per day, it's fine. Now, in summer, if you were to have 3 to 4 cups, it's fine. As long as you've been drinking the same amount, it's fine. You just need to drink in summer more water, because all this heat will make you dehydrated. Coffee will also make you dehydrated because it makes you urinate a little more. So you need to drink more fluids. So when I say fluids, more flavored water or water by itself is what I would suggest. Otherwise, there's no problem with coffee. 3 to 4 drinks is fine. There are great studies on coffee. Your risk of heart disease, risk of autoimmune problems, risk of dementia, risk of kidney disease, all those is reduced if you have 3 to 4 drinks. It's good for even preventing weight gain. So benefits are great with 3 to 4 cups of coffee. The next question is from somebody who likes to eat a lot of sweets or fruits in nighttime after dinner. The question is it some kind of a disorder, and how do I overcome it? So especially if you have a craving for fruits, especially at night, for sweets, the only way to I would suggest is, first of all, for your regular meal at dinner, try to have a balanced diet. Try to eat a lot of vegetables. First, drink a glass of water before you eat. Then, in your plate, the plate should be full of vegetables, a little bit of meat or dal, sambar, whatever plant-based protein, lentils, beans, rajma, chole, that kind of thing, but a lot of vegetables. And you can have a small amount of rice or chapati. What I mean to say is some carbs, some protein, but a lot of vegetables. Now, if you do that, you'll be feeling full, so you won't have those cravings. Typically, you get cravings for sweet, mostly, if you are not eating, if your stomach is not full. So you want to fill it with water and a lot of a lot of vegetables. Small amount of meat or lentils are fine, and then small amount of rice or chapati. But if you were to have still cravings, the best thing is to go with fruits, because fruits have natural sugar, not a lot of sugar, it's just natural. So I would go with an apple or a pear or some papaya or a small banana. Those are things that I would do. I would definitely stay away from sweets, because sweets, all that extra sugar and fat, all this, if you see, all the sweets are made with a lot of sugar and fat, a lot of oil and butter. So all that leads to weight gain and long-term problems. So I would stay away from sweets. I would stick to fruit if you're hungry. Now also at night, if you feel like hungry, have a glass of milk, some low-fat milk, a cup of milk is fine. The next question is about somebody asking about having a cup of green tea twice a day. The answer is it's a healthy drink, it's fine. There are a lot of great studies on green tea. It's loaded with a lot of antioxidants, and which in turn can lead to the risk of cancers is reduced, risk of heart disease is reduced, risk of dementia, risk of autoimmune conditions are reduced. So my answer is yes, it's good to have 2 cups of green tea. Now the next question is how to control thirst, because at night I used to drink more than a liter of water. So what you need at night, before, like throughout the day, try to balance your fluid intake, 3 to 4 liters of fluid, have a bottle with you, water bottle, keep filling it up with water and keep drinking. And at night, stay away from the things that make you thirsty. Is stay away from oily foods. Oily foods will make you thirsty. You want to drink more water. Also stay away from sweets. Stay away from alcohol, all at night especially, because all these things will make you crave for more fluids, more water. So no alcohol at night, and also reduce the amount of salt, because if you're having too much salty foods, then you want to drink a lot of water. So these are things that I would avoid. The next question is about having biryani at night. This patient is used to having biryani every night and suffering from gastric issues. So the question is, what should I do instead? What diet? Like I said earlier, the best diet is always eating a lot of vegetables. So because if you look at biryani, biryani is loaded with a lot of, all that rice has a lot of oil in it, a lot of masala in it, and then you have the meat, whether it is chicken or mutton, whatever. So instead switch to a more, the plate, like I said, should be full of vegetables, a lot of vegetables. Some protein would be a little bit of chicken or mutton, or instead of meat you can go with a lot of dal, lentils, rajma, chole. Those are all protein, that's plant-based protein. So you want to do a lot of vegetables, some plant-based protein, and you can have some curd or yogurt, whatever, and then you can have some small amount of rice or 2 multigrain small chapatis, something like that. So this way you won't have that cravings. The next question is is about a CKD patient. Can they have a beer occasionally, at least once a month? The answer is yes. Even with kidney patients, okay, in kidney patients, because beer has, can increase your phosphorus, can increase your, potassium. Patients with kidney disease, we tell them not to have beer for that reason. So once a month, I don't see any problem. It should be fine. It's only if you were to have once every day, then we're concerned about your electrolytes. So once a month, occasionally, it's fine. The next question is about somebody who's been sleeping under AC and it's causing a cold in the morning, which is lasting a couple of hours. How do you overcome this? The answer is, it sounds like what you have is allergies. A lot of people have allergies to dust, pollen, and at home, if you have in your bedroom, if you have rugs or carpets, or if you have curtains, that's where all the dust is accumulating. And if you're sleeping under an AC, all that dust is being circulated, because the movement of air causes that air to be filled with more, the dust is moving around, and that in turn is causing this congestion in your sinuses. What you feel is cold is basically a sinus congestion from allergies. So you could be allergic to something in your bedroom. Most likely it's dust, probably in your curtains. That's very common. So if you have any curtains, or I would clean them regularly. And if you think that AC is the main problem, then obviously you want to sleep away from the AC blowing on your face. There are also antihistamines, nasal sprays that will help if this is something chronic. You could also be allergic to like outside pollen, dust, So you may need to be tested for those things. But if the condition is bad, there is a nasal spray and there are some allergy tablets that might help with this condition. The next question is about does eating too much of meat increase immunity? The answer is no. In fact, eating too much meat can reduce your immunity. So it's all about moderation. You want to have small quantity. The quantity should be the size of your palm, not the whole hand. Any kind of meat should be the size of your palm, small quantity. The best way to increase immunity is by few things. One is exercise, 30 to 45 minutes daily. Number two is eating more vegetables, fruits, some nuts, and like I said, staying away from too much meats, staying away from fatty foods like cheese, butter, cream, pizzas, burgers, those kind of things I would stay away from. Number three, sleep well. 7 to 8 hours of sleep is good for immunity. And number four is reduce your stress. Stress will increase will increase inflammation and reduce your immunity. So these are things. So eating healthy, exercising, sleeping well, and reducing the stress. All this will reduce your inflammation and reduce your immunity. What I meant to say, increase your immunity. So eating too much meat is not good for you. Eat less meat, more plant-based proteins. So more lentils, beans, more vegetables, and exercise. These are things that you want to do. The next question is about sesame oil and olive oil. Are they good than regular oil? So answer is fine. Yeah, both these oils are good for you because there is a good amount of unsaturated fat. They don't have too much bad fat like your coconut oil and palm oil. So both these oils, especially they're great studies on extra virgin olive oil because it's loaded with a lot of antioxidants. There are great studies on it, especially if you look at people from Greece and Europe. It's called the Mediterranean diet. These people live longer because they don't eat too much meat. They mostly eat a lot of vegetables. They use olive oil for cooking and on their salads, and they eat some nuts, but very less meat. And these people live long because their risk of heart disease, risk of cancers, everything is reduced. So extra virgin olive oil is a good oil. The next question is about skipping breakfast. Is that good for your health? The answer is, there are studies there are all kinds of studies on this. If you were to do somebody who's like doing intermittent fasting and skipping breakfast, it's fine. If you're trying to lose weight, it's fine. But in general, if you skip your breakfast, typically what will happen is you will be hungry, before lunch. And if you're hungry, then you're going to go for carbohydrates, which means you're going to go for sweets, you're going to go for, juices or sodas. So typically our body will need some carbohydrates, especially if you're working, because our brain needs carbs or calories, so our muscles need energy. So we all need some kind of carbohydrates when you wake up in the morning. And if you skip breakfast and you're directly going for lunch at 12 or 1, great if you have the self-control, if you're only drinking fluids, it's fine. But if you're not one of those persons, if you're craving for carbohydrates, then it's a bad thing. Then you're better off having a healthy breakfast at home with some, with an egg or 1 or 2, egg whites. Have multigrain chapati or 2 or 3 small idlis. So or a dosha. So with a lot of vegetables. So if that's what you're going to doing, it's fine. But skipping breakfast and then going for sweets or juices or sodas or cookies, that's a bad thing to do. The next question about consuming dals or lentils and for people with gastric issues. The answer is, dals and lentils have a tendency to make you bloated and give you gas. As long as that's not a problem for you, you can consume dals and lentils without any problem, because dals and lentils have a lot of protein and there are some carbohydrates, but there's also a lot of fiber and protein, and usually all this fiber and protein fills you up, so you won't be hungry quickly. So but if the gastric issue, if you're having a lot of bloating, gas, it's intolerable, and then obviously you want to stay away from lentils and dals. But in general, for most people, dals and lentils are extremely healthy because you're not only getting some carbs but also a lot of fiber and protein, which is good for you. The next question is about how to control blood sugar with diet. What foods are best to control? Like I said, the foods you want to avoid are basically, anything sugary drinks, like all the juices, the soft drinks, then sweets, all cookies, cakes, pizzas. All these are loaded with a lot of sugar, carbs. When I say carbohydrates, is all, like I said, is complex sugar molecules. So you want to avoid them. Instead, you want to do a lot of vegetables. For example, for breakfast, for that matter, you can have a big omelette with 4 or 5 egg whites. It's all protein, and vegetables have very little carbs. So those are things. That's one way to control your blood sugar. The same thing, I mean, you can have a small chapati, 1 or 2 small chapatis for breakfast. At lunch, again, you can do some quinoa, or you can do a small cup of basmati rice, and then a lot of vegetables. And you can have some dal or lentils, or maybe some fish or chicken. So this way, stay away from fried foods, because fried foods have a lot of fat. So anything baked, anything shorva, those kind of things are fine. So the main thing is to control blood sugars. In addition to what we eat or drink, you have to exercise at least 30 to 45 minutes daily. And obviously you want to sleep well, you want to de-stress, because lack of sleep and stress, all this will increase your blood sugars. But the most important thing is what we eat and drink is the most important thing that affects your blood sugars. The next question is about intake of millets, whether it is better than rice and curries. The answer is, millets are good for you. Again, small, like I said, your plate, I'm going to show you a picture on that. Ideally, you want to have, millets should be a quarter plate. You can't have your plate should not be full of millets, but a quarter plate, like, I'll show you a picture on that. So if you were to have, this is how it's going to be. So if that's your plate should have a lot of vegetables. This is your, this could be your millets here, so a small portion. So here I'm showing, a quarter plate is here black beans, but this could be, a small portion of millets. And this small portion here, they have quinoa here, but this could be a small cup of basmati rice, or it could be 2 small chapatis, multigrain, whatever. But the most important thing is, you can see half the plate is vegetables. If you do the whole plate, it's fine, because those vegetables will fill you up and you won't be hungry. So minimum half the plate vegetables, and small amount of, whether here meat or lentils or beans or millets, and here small amounts of carbohydrates. So like I said, you can do millets there, or you can do a little bit of basmati rice, or you can do quinoa, or you can do small chapatis. But the main emphasis is more vegetables, more vegetables, more vegetables. There's no limit to how much vegetables you can eat. Whereas millets also have a lot of carbs in them. They also have, there's some protein, some fiber, but they do have carbs, so you can't overdo millets. You want to do everything in moderation. Quarter plate millets, quarter plates lentils, and half plate vegetables. Vegetables you can even do whole plate. That's how it should be. The next question is about somebody is worried about their friends consuming too much alcohol. The friend is 38 years of age, and what kind of tests do they need to do is the question. So the answer is, typically for everybody at this stage, if you're above 20, you need to be tested for your cholesterol at least. If you're above 30, definitely you need to be tested for a complete blood test. I would suggest a liver function test, a sugar test called the HbA1c. I would suggest a lipid panel to make sure your cholesterol is not high. But since your friend is consuming a lot of alcohol, they should get a liver function test and a sugar test called HbA1c. And a cholesterol test we recommend for everybody, because the risk of heart disease is high. The next question is about somebody's, his son likes to eat fast foods, and how do I control? He's 15. He's a 15-year-old kid who likes to eat outside fast foods, and how do we control? So the best way to make them start eating is, as much as possible, try to have them eat at home, especially at least 2 meals a day at home, and as much as possible try to make sure you have healthy vegetables. Vegetables, they need to somehow start eating vegetables, because at 15, if they're not eating vegetables, that's going to be a lifelong problem, because we're seeing now patients with heart disease in a very young age, in their 25s, 30s, we are seeing patients with heart attack and strokes. So, and all that is, some of it is diet, some of it is genetics. So it's better to start at home. One way to do it is, if they like any kind of vegetables, to start serving more vegetables. And at home, if they like, and slowly introduce fruits. Fruits is a good way. Introduce nuts. So if they can start eating like a fistful of nuts a day, that's a good thing, because the nuts have a lot of good fat and protein. It fills you up. So one way to avoid fast foods is, as much as possible, try to make him eat at home. So whether it is breakfast, lunch and dinner, I would try to reduce the amount of pocket money that you're giving him, so him or her. So they eat at home, and at home try to give them fresh juices, fresh fruits, a lot of vegetables. Okay, they can have some meats, chicken, fish. The best meats is fish, followed by chicken, followed by eggs are fine as long as you don't overdo. Egg whites are fine. You can eat 4 or 5 egg whites a day. Egg yolk has a lot of cholesterol, so if you have a history of high cholesterol, you want to avoid those. Now the next question is about, is it better to have one vegetable, a lot, or a mix of vegetables? Can we fill a plate with single vegetable? The answer is, it's always good to mix with a lot of vegetables, because each vegetable, different kinds of vegetables have different kinds of vitamins and minerals. So you want to have a mix. So, but in general, I suggest, I myself, every day I'll have, for at least breakfast or lunch, I'll have some kind of greens. So I'll have, one day I'll have, for breakfast I'll have an omelette with spinach. One day for lunch I'll have dal with spinach, or dal with some chukakura or palakura or todakura, or I'll have todakura curry. So I'll have some kind of, green curry, whether it is, so in addition to vegetables, I'll have I'll have bell peppers, I'll have, for salads, I'll have cucumber, I'll have cauliflower, so I'll grill all kinds of vegetables. But the most important thing is, you need to mix all kinds of vegetables, because this way you're getting, each vegetable has some kind of benefit. Some have more vitamins than others. So when you mix all kinds, that's where the most benefit is. So in conclusion, what I want to tell you is that 2 things. If you eat, when you go to a restaurant or when you buy anything, as much as possible, try to go with fresh stuff. Eat fresh vegetables, meats and stuff. Always, small quantities is the way to go. Eat more nuts, like 10 to 12 walnuts, almonds a day. Eat at least 3 fruits a day. When it comes to drinking, stay away from ready-made packed drinks. Anything pre-packed has a lot of sugar added and a lot of preservatives. We don't know the long-term effects of those, so stay away from those. And clearly we know that too much sugar is bad for you, causes inflammation, heart disease, cancers, diabetes, all kinds of things. So you want to stay away from that. And as much as possible, drink a lot of water, flavored water. Like I said, at home, throw in some cucumber, throw in some, you can throw in some fresh orange slices, you can throw in some mint. So this way you're getting a flavored water. And stay away from too much alcohol. 1 to 2 drinks small light beers, or 1 to 2 small pegs of alcohol, like 60 ml maximum, scotch or rum or whiskey, whatever. 60 ml is the max per day, and at least aim for 30 to 45 minutes of exercise, and get 7 to 8 hours of sleep, and reduce your stress. Thank you.